Thank you for staying with us here at Champion News Talk Radio, brought to you by championnews.net. Remember, this Tuesday, get out and vote, because you've got to vote for people that are going to have the political will to get rid of these egregious pensions. But Bruno, you know what? Teachers don't get Social Security. Well, they don't. First of all, there's two things that people need to realize about it is true that when the teacher sits there and tells you, well, teachers don't get Social Security, there's two things you got to remember about that. Number one, if you could get an Illinois gold-plated pension system, you'd be happy not to pay into Social Security. If you could scam the system or game this, then you wouldn't want to pay Social Security. You'd much rather. Why would I want to pay 6%? It's actually 12, but why would you want to pay 12-point-something% into Social Security when you can pay 8 or 9 or 10% if indeed they actually do pay that and get these gold-plated pensions? A lot of places they don't. And yeah, so that's one important thing. But here's the other thing. After 40 quarters, like for example, if a teacher worked, let's say somebody was a teacher, but they worked from age 16 to 25, and they worked 40 quarters. All you have to do is work 40 quarters in America. 40 quarters from when you start to age 65. And you do get Social Security. Now, the benefit formula is based on what you paid into it, but the fact of the matter is that if a teacher worked did house painting or some kind of consulting business or a hobby business, if anybody in America who works 40 quarters and puts 40 quarters of things into Social Security gets Social Security. So a lot of the stuff, you got to know the facts here, but the fact is there's going to be a lot of teachers who are going to get Social Security. So they're going to get Social Security and a pension? And their Illinois pension. What about a spouse? Let's say the teacher had a spouse that has a Social Security. Of course. Yeah, of course the spouse would get. What if you get two teachers? Ordinary teachers, let's talk about the size of this thing. An ordinary teacher, the average of this stuff, of what they get is just a little under $60,000 is what the pensions work out for teachers. The average for Social Security is $14,000. So these systems are really wacky difference. And of course, Social Security doesn't pay at 55. You can get in at 62. But one of the remedies that should happen in all of this is nobody should get any retirement, that anybody that's healthy, sooner than 65. Hell, 70 is the new 60. Absolutely. No, and this is, I mean, if let's put it this way, if Social Security, for example, indexed its benefit formula to the age of, to the life expectancy, the same way that you would index a benefit to a tax, I mean, to inflation, if you indexed Social Security to life expectancy, Social Security would be darn near solvent. There's another aspect of this thing that Bruno brought up, that school teachers could work outside the school system. I can tell you, I have a friend that worked in the city of Chicago, and this is what he told me. And he's been retired quite a while now, so the numbers are different. But he says, I go into the building at 8:30, I'm out at 2:30. He says, I'm running he says, I'm a carpenter, and I've got guys working with me, and we repair porches and such. And so he's got an outside business as a carpenter, because a teaching job is little more than half of a normal working person's time. You work 170 days, not 240, as all the rest of us do. Exactly. And the working day in the city of Chicago is frequently only a little over 5 hours a day, and one of those hours is free for the teacher to do whatever they want to do. But teaching works from 5.5 to 7 hours a day, and 170 days a year. You work that out, the hours that are in it are a little bit more than the hours that a normal worker outside of it. Now normal workers are working twice as much for the same amount or less money. Michael, what were you going to say? I got to ask Bruno while we got him on the air. You know, there's a lot of talk about putting the pensions back in the hands of the districts to alleviate the state. What's your take on that? Well, it's generally a good idea. It's probably something that should have been kept, as Jack pointed out earlier in the show. We probably should have kept it that way instead of moving it to having the state become responsible, because then what we've had for years is that the districts go out and sign off on all the ridiculous benefits, and then they just slough that off onto the state taxpayer, and now the chickens are coming home to roost. What we really need is every benefit that is conferred, at the moment it's conferred, needs to be funded up front, And the best place to do that is the local level. Now, there are some people with this talk about moving everything back to the local, the districts and the
What are the implications for the property taxes, though?
Well, here's one thing you got to do. There's a bill out there. There's a bill out there, and everybody's got to know about this because it's a Democrat-sponsored bill, and it's shocking, but it's a great idea. And it's Jack Frank's. It's 2073, SB 2073. First, you pass this bill, and it freezes property taxes if the levy doesn't climb, if the valuation doesn't climb, which means that if your property values are falling, you don't see property tax increases, period. It's a great bill. And that's the vice. You got to squeeze these pensions into a vice.
This is actually baloney, because you're going to pay the tax if they spend it, and I don't care what they manipulate it.
Jack, it's a good point, but here's what you do with this. If you move it back into the local area, states cannot declare bankruptcy.
But
municipalities and school districts can, and quite frankly, they should. So this is this is all dirty. It's all dirty pool now on all sides because they have created a system that cannot work.
It's an unsustainable system.
Yeah, and taxpayers need to know this. There is not enough tax revenue, property tax, income tax, sales tax. There isn't enough revenue to actually pay these pensions. So they're going to have to come down, and everybody needs to know that. So anything that makes people more responsible, property tax freezes, and then pushing them back down into the local level, it's not a bad idea if it's properly done.
People are going to leave Illinois even more, though.
At some point, these illegal contracts are going to have to be torn up and rewritten.
They can be at the local level.
After the break.